7 o'clock, we'll call it to order. We have one person right now on teleconference here, Leanne Gilson from Brookline. So, any additions or corrections to the agenda? Lori?
Could we add to discuss and take action on who will approve warrants when the board doesn't meet?
You mean authorized signatures?
Yes, to review the AP, the accounts payable, and sign off on it. If the
Okay.
board doesn't have a meeting, or if it's canceled for some reason, or there's snow, could be lots of reasons.
Don't say that word.
Possibility.
Okay, we've added that.
Thank you.
Anything else we need to add to the agenda? Correct on the agenda? Okay. Members of the public, if you're here for something that's on the agenda, we'd ask you to wait till then. If not, what do you got? Anything? All right. Correspondence. I had sent out some, and I had been asked to kind of hang on to that just because
Identification.
identification of students. So they're. Hello?
Hey, it's Mike calling in.
Okay, Mike's here. So anyway, we've not published the correspondence on the website just because it identifies students by name, and we're kind of leaving that alone. But all three of the pieces of correspondence are renewed requests from Wyndham parents to have us allow their sixth graders to come down to middle school next year without tuition being paid to Leland and Gray, because Wyndham has officially denied paying the tuition for them. So we'll talk, that's on the agenda. We'll take it up at that point. But that's the only correspondence I have. Anybody else with anything? Okay. Phoebe, you and Luna. I'm like, Juno, Luna are up first. So you guys on the phone are missing the therapy dog presentation with Luna, who's awesome looking and chill, like this chill dog who's just hanging out in the library.
Yeah.
You should be here for this one.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh, that's cool. My sister is a school psychologist who has a therapy dog in 5th grade math, so I know a lot about it. So good job.
So just in case, I think if I stand here, the polls and everything is good. So my name's Phoebe Connolly. I'm one of the school counselors at Leland and Gray. I'm also a New Spain resident. This is Luna. She is not my dog. She is a friend's dog who spends lots and lots of time at the Greenwood School up in Putney. So I knew that she would be an excellent company sidekick for my presentation for you. So what I am letting you know is about an emotional support pilot program that I am going to be implementing at Leland and Gray next year. And that would involve bringing a dog to the school as an emotional support animal. So just some terminology that's actually really important is there's a service dog, which is the little buggers with the vests who have a very specific job to identify someone if they know that they're going to have a seizure, if their blood sugar is too high, if they need help opening doors. They're performing a direct service to an individual. That is not what the dog would be at Leland and Gray. Then there's a therapy dog, which has a high and rigorous level of training, which is meant to help people in hospitals or hospice, or they go into nursing homes. There are some that are in schools. A lot of times you'll see them, they have a very specific purpose. They typically also have vests. And then there are emotional support animals, and they provide therapeutic benefits through just companionship. And so that's what we're looking at, is an emotional support dog, just to be clear on that. So the question is, why would we do this? So as you can see, Bill's got a nice smile on his face because he's got a new buddy who's just hanging out with him here. Animals provide a connection to people that sometimes people can't access in that moment. Also, when you're talking about students, sometimes talking about what's bothering them is something that they can't yet find words to do. Or the level of comfort that they need is something that in an educational environment we can't provide. Whether it's, they need just a hug or somebody to touch them or to touch someone else. This is something that an animal can provide that in a school we have proper protections so that that doesn't happen, but with animals that is a possibility. So animals can support people in ways that we can't. A lot of times somebody can't talk about what is upsetting to them, but they can have a connection with an animal that really helps them through it. I know I've been thinking a lot about our students today, and I've been thinking like how much I wish that I could show up to some of their houses with a dog that they could just like be with right now. And the other piece is with it being connected to a school counselor, it provides an opportunity and an opening for students who may not be interested in meeting with a school counselor because of their own ideas or opinions about it's not okay to talk to somebody about what is wrong. So it just provides a door to open that window. The other thing that it has commonly been used in schools is students who have behavior plans. It's an incentive. One thing I want to be really clear about is if in doing this, it would never be an incentive to spend time with the dog because that's something that everybody should have access to. It would be a higher level, such as take the dog for a walk, obviously with an adult, but there's no behavior that a student can do other than like a safety behavior that would say like you no longer can access the dog. We make mistakes, students make mistakes. It wouldn't be something that would be taken away, but a higher level could be something that would be earned. So there are concerns. It's a dog, it's an animal, it's unpredictable. People are afraid of them, people are allergic to them. So these are some of the concerns that I've outlined. In terms of allergies, the dog would be in one location. It would be my office. I do know that there is a student that has an allergy that's coming in. I've already talked to their parents, and the allergy and fear are sort of connected because they don't understand their body's reactivity to what would happen if a dog licked them, which is what would cause the allergic reaction. But in talking to the student and the parent, if they know where it is, they're okay with that. Same thing with fear. If it's predictable, if they know where the dog is, that can alleviate the fear. And for any student that would be the case, I can see them in an alternate location within the school. There's plenty of space. Liability, there would be a opt-out permission form for families. If you don't want your student to have access to the dog, fill in the form and then they don't get access. One question is, who would own it? Would the school have to pay for it to maintain it? No, I would be taking on the ownership and the training to cover all costs and care for the animal and would not be looking for reimbursement from the school. So I have talked to quite a few people in Vermont, just Vermont, who have different levels of dogs involved in their school. This is Erica McLaughlin, who's the elementary principal up at Randolph, and this is her dog, London. And he is a part of their reading, she is a part of their reading program. Great for stress reducer, for kids and adults, really good listener. The dog is in designated areas, so it's not a problem with allergies, and it has not been an issue. She's busy, she's been into play, she goes to IEP meetings, she's all over the place, and has really been a help to their school. Floodbrook also has Ella, who comes in. She was worried, the owner was worried about fear and allergy, but it hasn't been a problem. There's kids and staff that fit into those categories, but being aware of it, they're able to keep their distance. Ella works in the front office with the admin assistant, so she has a baby gate, so people have to sort of approach her, so that helps. It's been a positive experience, and she also, students read to her, so. And Twin Valley has this funky little guy named Toby, and Toby comes in, same thing, student avoided the dog. And over the course of the year, the student's fear lessened and eventually chose to pet the dog, so help get over that fear. So, there's research. I'm all into the research and the data, so I went big on this. There's really good research about how, in this case, the presence of a dog provided an increase in emotional stability. For emotional disabilities such as oppositional defiant disorder, ADHD, reactive attachment disorder, all sorts of emotional challenges that individuals face, which cover students in our general ed and special ed population. And they found, using qualitative analysis, that the presence of the dog increased the emotional stability, increased behavioral control, and students' attitude towards school, as well as responsibility, respect, and empathy. If you're talking about 3 really good qualities that we want our students to leave to go into the world with, responsibility, respect, and empathy, outside of your core academics, are pretty top in my mind. You can look up that study if you would like. So, a little bit in the news. This is why I needed the sound.
First and foremost, some students in New York City schools will see some more four-legged friends running through their hall.
Sorry. Where'd it go?
It was there.
It was there.
Yeah, the district is expanding its Comfort Dog program, and today introduced.
Friends running through their halls.
Yeah, the district is expanding its Comfort Dog program, and today introduced some of their new recruits.
Yeah, there we go.
Kimberly Richardson has the story.
The energy that a dog brings into the room is so special. It's not something that I think other humans could provide.
It was love at
There
first
it is.
sight. 11-week-old Bailey is pure joy. But as snuggly as he is, this puppy has a job to do here at MS 88 in Brooklyn.
Being around an animal is really silly, and it allows children to open up a little bit and to let their guard down a little bit, maybe talk about things that they may have a hard time talking about.
Kira Wolf is teaching him the ropes. This Australian Labradoodle is one of 8 new dogs now in place in public schools, an expansion of the Comfort Dog program. It's been proven animals can positively affect students' academic and social emotional well-being. Hannah suffers from anxiety and had an attack in school. She spent time with Petey, another Comfort Dog here, and tells me it really made a difference.
It grounds you and it gives you a sense of where you are, and I think it can help take you out of your mental state, and it just kind of helps kids relax and breathe.
The goal is over the next 16 weeks or so, Bailey will wrap up his training and then he'll be integrated into the classroom.
Students might be stressed out, overwhelmed about things in school, so maybe Bailey could bring happiness to most students.
Did he make you happy?
Yeah.
By the end of the school year, Comfort Dogs will be in more than 60 schools. Like Bailey, they'll have structured days with clear objectives. He's got a lot to learn, and after a tough morning, well, that was that.
First and foremost, some students in New York City.
Well done.
Maybe.
Looks just like Callie.
Oh, yeah.
Well, take a look at this. This dog named Cooper is one of the most well-received staff members at Frontier Central High School in Hamburg. News 4's Angela Christoforos tells us how he's making a difference. Angela?
Well, Christy, there's no question that pets make you happy, and studies even show that they can help reduce stress. Cooper's job is to give and receive love, and anyone at Frontier Central High School would tell you he does a great job. At least 2 times a week, sometimes more, Cooper patrols hallways and stops by classrooms in Frontier Central High School.
I think Cooper has really changed the vibe at high school. Like, you can tell how, like, more calm people are. Just seeing him in the hallway, people get really excited.
The 6-year-old Golden Retriever is a certified therapy dog.
He has his Canine Good Citizenship certification. He has the Erie County SPCA Pause for Love certification, and he's got the Therapy Dog International certification.
Assistant Principal David Smasniak is his owner. He says Cooper is just as happy to be at the school as the kids are when they see him.
It's outstanding to see how excited he is coming into work, and many times though he's really exhausted when he goes home because he's walked this large building and greeted so many students that he's ready to crash when he goes home.
Cooper is on call for students in distress, special needs students, or anyone who just needs a smile.
He has come to Calc before. He's come to AP Calc, and that's helped a lot because that class is pretty stressful.
You can see the kids calm right down. If anybody's having a bad day, they just go over and they pet them, they can hug him, and you can just see their anxieties start to slip away.
I sure wish I had a dog like that when I was in AP classes. Cooper also works with support groups at Big Tree out.
Okay, so a little bit more research. So there was a school, so the dog and a teacher team of people, and they measured social interactions within the classroom, and the dog acted as a buffer during stressful periods of time. They did a control group and a control group and then an intervention group, and a medium to strong benefit to the whole class as a group, and that the third year for students in this, point out that the third year for students in this, oh, gotcha. Sorry. The third year of their academics was a very high stressful time, and so this dog acted as a buffer during that. More research. Dogs were helpful. So they measured social ability, social integration, and aggressive behaviors, which were reduced, and but they did clearly identify a bias in that the teachers were not blind to the conditions. So, but they did find an increase in empathy and independence. But social intelligence did not change based on the group that had a dog or not. Students with disabilities, there's all sorts of stuff out there about how dogs and animals can improve their quality of life. Marjory Stoneham Douglas, as we know, horrible tragedy. Their first day back at school, the school was like flooded with dogs to help their students. More dogs. It's all over the place. And then this next one, this is actually a friend of mine. Her dad wrote this opinion piece in the Valley Reporter after Harwood. And the day after the students were killed in the car accident, they opened up the doors of the school and they had tons of therapy dogs, and all, students and families were suffering to a level that I can't really even understand. And the therapy dogs were there to sort of assist them. And also their first home soccer game, they had the same thing, just trying to help them. Hi, Ellie. This is Luna. I hope it's okay if she says that. So lots more information is out there, all sorts of resources. And
just stand over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. All sorts of resources are out there, and really the hope is that Leland and Gray will get on board with this, and this will be something that we can expand to our elementary schools as well. I know that one of the things that came up that has been in the news recently is the therapy dogs that are now on staff at Stoneham Douglas. They put them in their yearbook. So they all have like yearbook staff pictures because they've been so integrated into their school community. Yeah. So, just wanted to let you know, that is the plan for Leland and Gray. It will not be Luna, unfortunately, as she is the perfect dog, unless her owners allow me to snag her from them. Any questions? Yes?
Do you already have this dog, or would you be getting
I
it?
do not have this dog, no. If you've ever been at Leland and Gray, you've probably noticed that I spend a lot of time here. And that doesn't make me a very responsible dog owner. So I wouldn't have a dog unless I knew that I could provide it a reasonable lifestyle, which this would be. So until that happens.
Does that mean you're gonna get a sidecar for the motorcycle for spring?
That's what I have the Jeep for. Any other questions? Yes.
Would a hypoallergenic dog help alleviate the whole allergy issue?
No, actually, because there's no such thing as an allergy-free dog. They don't exist, because what people are allergic to is the saliva. And so when dogs clean themselves, their saliva gets on their fur, and then people are allergic to the fur, but they're actually allergic to the saliva. So the plan would be a short-haired dog. I'm actually looking at greyhounds, because they are the 40-mile-an-hour couch potatoes. And they're very lazy and they're very sociable, but they don't jump, they don't bark, and they don't lick. And they have short hair. They look a little funny, but they're very, very sweet. So, thanks. Yes.
Is there, I know you had talked about the difference between emotional support dog versus therapy dog. And is there like a basic level of training, or is it just sort of be a good boy?
For emotional support, there is no criteria necessarily. Therapy, there's a very high level of criteria. My goal would be to move into a place of getting the dog certified as a therapy dog. It's lots and lots of hours in lots of different environments. And it's one of those things that I would work with Bob about, in that I'm not going to bring an animal into this building, into my office, that I don't have the utmost confidence in. So no, there isn't necessarily a criteria, but there is a professional and building criteria that we would have around the behavior of the dog. So, like this kind of works.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
And you know, when I told people that I was doing this, they're like, "Oh, we can bring my," and I was like, "No, no, I won't." Like, I need to bring a 100% predictable and you know, very compliant pepper, which is this one.
I think it's great, and I applaud you for doing it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks. Well, you guys will have to come visit,
We will.
or maybe I'll have the dog come visit you.
Yeah, when you get the real dog that's going to do this, you should bring him or her.
Good. Well, if you have other questions, you know how to find me. Can I ask the members of the public if they have any questions?
Sure.
I don't know what like criteria is for. Do you guys have any questions?
We have a dog. We're very relaxed now.
Okay, great.
Whatever you
great.
want.
Yeah. How is it? You guys put the dog right?
Where were you the last two months?
Yeah, you should have been bringing this dog the last 2 months.
I should have brought a lot more than one.
Hey Joe, can I say something?
Sure.
I just want to add to this, like, you know, I mentioned my sister has just completed her first year in a Fitchburg, Mass. middle school as a psychologist with a therapy dog, and she said it made an amazing difference. So I think this is great, Phoebe. Good job.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, anybody? No?
Yeah.
Thanks,
Great.
Phoebe.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Luna.
You're welcome. I'll give her some
Thank
salami.
you, Phoebe. Okay, so next, there's no action on this from us. I mean, this is a building decision. Bob's
Yeah, I was
approving
mostly
it.
just informing you
You're
that
just.
this is the plan.
This is a courtesy call.
And hopefully we can expand it when it's super successful to other schools. Just give me the heads up as be.
Do you have the long-range thinking on that? Is that you go around with the dog to the other schools, or is it the other schools find a willing volunteer?
Yeah, it would have to be case by case because again, like really trying to be mindful of students and allergies and fears, and it could be definitely the type of thing that I could bring the dog to other schools, but I would just want to make sure parents know and all those pieces. But yeah, it would be great.
I think that's great. Okay, so next is the now that we've gone through the Wyndham merger vote, and Wyndham is not going to be part of the West River Education District. For K through 6. There's yet another vote for the rest. We have to deal. We've been waiting for this moment to deal with the requests of the parents to bring their 6th graders down.
Also a kindergarten request.
That's right. We have another one that's a kindergarten request too. So that's where we are. We had talked about, we had started to talk about some possible solutions, but then we had been advised to just wait and see how the vote played out. So now we have that. So we're back to, what do we want to do to, what can we do? What do we want to do to accommodate those requests? I mean, Howie.
I move that we accommodate these requests
How?
by accepting these kids tuition free as long as we have the room for them.
We can't pick and choose though, right? We can't say we're gonna accept these kids. We have to say we will accept.
Well, we have, I mean, there are parameters to this, and the deal is that you have to give the same tuition rate to a to every district. So if we just take kids tuition free, then any kids would be tuition free. So the sort of the advice that we've been given on this is to be very, very specific with a motion to allow, 6th graders or we can expand that, but, allow a certain group of students and qualify it with, just 6th grade or kindergarten through 6th grade or whatever. We can't limit it to a district. We can't say just Wyndham. So, I mean, kids from Wardsboro, Dover, Athens, whatever could take advantage of this as well, and also limit it to a 1 year period to just get through this 1 year period to then let things sort of settle out. We may have to take it up again in a year, but that's the advice, is to keep it very, very narrow.
So if we make a motion due to the fact that they are in the middle school, Wyndham is in the middle high school, and middle school has now, in the middle of the year, went to 6th grade, 6, 7, and 8, being the first year, since Wyndham's budget was already made under the pretense that that money needs to support those kids up in Wyndham, the motion should be to allow this first year to let the kids in tuition free. Any other year after that, tuition would have to be paid from Wyndham, just like any other district. Because it's all the timing issue, and we moved the 6th grade, and budgets were made up in Wyndham not to have the 6th grade, you know what I mean, move, and the money was already allocated in other places.
Right. So I was
motion would have to be something like that.
Well, I was just explaining what the advice was. Did I get that all the way it's supposed to be, Bill? Because I was just going to explain that.
Sure.
And then
So
really, it was a clarifying question for your motion. So once we have the whole thing out there, I would let you finish the motion.
here's what we have so far. So I have been in contact with the AOE to talk about the possibility of hearing this request and the possibility of the board making a motion to accept that request. Joe has it correct in that it has to be equal for any district, any school, any person that resides in Vermont. So for example, and the only thing that I have discussed with the AOE has been that, what Ken just talked about, very specific to 6th grade. So I have not engaged the AOE in a conversation about any other grade. But the advice would be the same in that you can't, if you're going to do, I guess technically you could do all kindergartners and all sixth graders because those are the only 2 grade levels you've been asked. But then you should be prepared for a 3rd grader to ask who lives in Athens. And it would be very difficult to not extend that courtesy even though you were very narrow. I have not had our attorney review a possibility of a motion. I've reached out to our attorney, but I have not heard back. I've provided the advice from the AOE to our attorney. So I can't give you definitive advice tonight, but I think you have laid it out, that it has to be equal for everybody. And the narrower would be the more risk averse. There are some ramifications of providing free tuition. One is that any student needs that are required to be given would have to be given without billing back to another district. So that's just something to consider as well. So my advice to the board, although it might be a challenge for the parents to not know immediately, is I would seriously consider waiting to hear back from our attorney about
Proper language.
all the, exactly, an example of what a motion could be and all the different ramifications. I think that could be done in July, still with enough time to allow parents to know significantly before school starts. But without those questions answered, I would be uncomfortable with a definitive motion being made tonight.
Well, question you can, just for the attorney, because of the fact that we have everything still written up as K6, the budgets, remember we had to separate the budgets as K6 and 712?
Yeah, for the budget vote, yes.
Right, so if you made a motion to say any Leland and Gray, any member of the Leland and Gray district, and specific, you know, that's specific to any one of the 5 towns that are in Leland and Gray that don't tuition kids in, you know, they just pay the budget as it is, that they allow them in.
I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can limit it to certain districts, because if I live in Athens, I have the same right to have.
Well, like I said, being under the pretense that the way the budgets and the timing,
I mean, I'm happy to ask, I'm just saying.
that's the route I would go, because otherwise it's gonna be, you do one, you do all. We had that come up this year at Newbrook, where we had a student move for the last 2 months, and we waived tuition.
Knowing full well.
Knowing full well that 18 kids could have came in for the last 2 weeks.
Correct.
Or 2 months.
Okay, so having heard all of that,
I would like, so let me amend my motion. I move that we engage our attorney to draw a legally valid motion for a 1-year tuition waiver for kids.
I just want to make sure I got the 1 year,
1-year tuition.
the motion language.
Come up with proper motion language for a 1-year tuition waiver for the kids who have requested to be accepted here.
So any grade level? Is that what your motion is? Because
We only have, it's only,
I'm just asking.
We have a kindergarten and 6th grade have been
for
requested.
4 children.
provided that these request, this classroom space available for
Kindergarten.
and provided that we don't have to hire another teacher, there's room for the kids, it's,
Yep, I know where this is going, but go ahead.
So Howie's amending a motion.
Right.
That's where we
I
are.
think he didn't have a second, so he
I
just
never had a
wrote a
second.
motion.
Yeah, it's-
Well, he just wrote a motion,
He just
but
gave a motion.
yeah, just,
There was no
I'm
second.
putting out a motion.
I
for the
can't
attorney
hear
to
the
draw it
motion,
up,
so if someone could
so-
repeat
so
it, it would
we can
be
vote on
helpful.
something that is legally valid.
okay, hang on.
Ready?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, since this involves K through 6,
I do not believe it is Howie's right to make any kind of motion. It's just personal opinion.
It's true. I had a feeling that was what was coming.
That's true. It's proper.
It's probably proper. I appreciate the sentiment. Does somebody else like?
I'll make that
Okay,
motion that
so-
Howard worded so elegantly for me.
So Ken is now the maker of the motion to engage our attorney to craft motion language for us to allow a 1-year tuition waiver for the students that have requested it to come into the West River Education District.
For us to consider.
For us to consider, not necessarily adopted, but to consider. Have I got that right, Howie?
Yes.
Okay, and you guys on the phone heard it now?
Yeah, I got a question too.
Okay. Now we need a second.
I have a question, I'm not seconding, sorry.
Okay.
So is that language saying just for the families that have already requested? Because
Well, I think
that's what it sounded like.
Don't say we
that-
can't do that.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I think that, that it would come out that we can't limit it to just who's requested. Once we do that, then we would have to
Right.
open it up to anybody
Right.
who would come in the future and request.
Right.
But it's a 1-year thing.
But it's a 1-year deal, and we've set the grade level parameters. So before we ask a bunch of questions, let's see if we can get a second, and then we can amend it around,
Wait a minute.
and then we can discuss it.
Since I made the motion, I have a question, because if we make that motion.
Why don't you
and
get a second first?
kindergartner comes down to, say, Townsend. right?
If what?
A kindergartner comes down to Townsend, that's school choice, and that then therefore becomes their home school. Does it or does it not?
I don't know. Let's not go that far into the weeds
Well,
until we actually have a second on the motion. Do we get a second on the motion?
No, then we don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
I'm fine with doing it without a motion, but I have a question.
Sure.
So I want to go back to something Bill said about bill back and costs. So if a student from, I'll just throw a town out, Whitingham, decides they want to come to Leland and Gray for
Yep.
6th grade, and they're on an IEP and they need a certain
$100,000
level of support, we would have to absorb that at Leland and Gray. The sending town would not.
That's correct.
It's just really important that we understand what that means. Not passing judgment one way or another, but I think,
Right.
Bill, is that by statute, or is that just how it's always done?
It's statute on this.
It's considered a parentally placed, it's a, in the event that a student from another school district in one of the grades that this board makes a motion to accept for tuition-free situation requires any additional service outside of the general education setting, it would be incumbent upon the receiving district that has accepted that student for the tuition to provide that service.
Okay, but could the motion be amended to bill it back to them somehow?
Well, because then that district would not have the choice, the parent wouldn't have the choice, it would be the district having the choice.
I got you.
Okay, so Lori, you had a question, and then,
No, I just was actually following up on the parentally placed, that's what I thought it was.
okay. Somebody else have a question?
I guess I would say that since it looks like we're going to explore this, we don't have a motion, but we're going to speak to our attorney, I'm assuming, to get some of these questions answered. It sounds like that's already happened. Is there, I know it sounds like the decision, the suggestion is that we would need to absorb the costs of anything outside of just the normal tuition. So I'd like to know what those possibilities are and whether there's any way to limit it to just standard tuition and not, like if a child wanted to take summer course or something. I'm trying to think, driver ed course in the summer, that kind of thing where,
Sure.
there's many other possibilities that I think that could come
So
up.
the students would have to be treated exactly like any other student. You're not taking in the $17,000 that goes into the pot that would serve all of those students. That's what we do now, and we're just not charging that $17,000.
So now Marlboro's policy
Yes.
has restrictions that only covers gen ed. So is that?
It does.
If we were to adopt a policy
That's what I'm
similar
trying to
to
get at.
Marlboro's,
Let's see, how do I phrase this?
sorry.
No, it's okay. I think that's going to require a legal response that I
That's what
update
we're
the
asking.
board in
Yeah.
executive session.
So then, do we need to make a motion or just?
I think I've
Just
taken,
authorize the
from the
superintendent.
non-motion, I feel like I have a direction from the board to engage
There you
our
go.
attorney to consider the options that have been discussed about a legally valid motion for a one-year period of time to investigate the requested grades that have been presented to this board and then come back to the board with a full slate of options. And in an executive session, I can provide more legal context to the specific question that has been raised.
And if I could just, if you're, when you're going to have that conversation, just, get some clarity around whether you can limit it to specific requests or specific grades, or does this actually open it up for pre-K 12 because we're agreeing to more than just the 3 students who've requested it from Wyndham?
Yeah. and I think
Because of a
that's
specific reason.
The specificity.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And that's exactly what I plan to do. I just didn't.
Thank you.
I don't have that information for you guys tonight.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so we would then put that on, we would then have that all made available to us in July. We could make the decision in July of what we're gonna do. I know that's
Yeah,
another month of waiting for the
Yeah.
parents, and I'm sorry, but
hate to wait any longer than that.
that's, and I think we need to sort of understand that we're gonna have to do this in July just out of
Yeah.
decency to the people who are waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone okay with that? Okay.
When's our July meeting?
Our July meeting would be July 15th if we just stuck with the third Monday schedule. Sometimes we take summers off. Sometimes
That
boards
was
take
summer.
summers
We
off.
take one
I don't
week.
think we can necessarily, but it would.
Okay, that would be a real slime ball thing.
We-
Push it off
we
to the
don't-
next
No,
meeting
we
and
wouldn't
take the
we
summer
wouldn't do
off.
that. Well,
We take
sometimes we
one
take a
month.
month off, right?
Yeah, we
But
don't
I'm
take-
not sure we're even going to be able to take a month off. We'll meet in July.
I
We'll
would
probably meet in
suggest we
August.
won't.
We were going to
15th,
talk about it.
I think
So
gives good time
July
for me to
15th.
The
That's
question.
great. Thank you.
The question will be decided. If you come up with anything else, any questions pop into your head, driving, whenever these things pop into your head, let me know, let Bill know, we'll pass them on. Okay? Anything else on that topic?
No, it's very helpful.
Okay, so there is a further Wyndham vote warned for July 16th to withdraw from the Leland and Gray district, which affects us going forward because we'll be running that school and it's permanent. It's loss of those students. So we should just talk about what. We don't have any real responsibilities in that. It's not our board's vote. The other boards could hold information meetings. We can publish some financial data because we have it, because we're sort of the custodian of that. I don't think we need to get as involved as we did in the other vote, but I think we need to do something.
Sort of the other way around.
Go ahead.
Well, I just feel like this one, those students are already ours in this district. And so I would suggest it's more of the opposite, that we should really make sure that we understand what the impact will be, not just on our taxpayers who will potentially feel, we know because when we lose any students from just in natural decline and enrollment, that has a great impact on our ability to provide programs for our students, which are clearly very valuable to us. But I would also say that this could have a significant impact on even the viability of our high school that we serve. So I think we need to take this really seriously. This could have a great impact on our programs, on our school, and our costs.
Are you thinking?
No, my wrist was.
Okay.
Sorry.
Like, is that well, I guess I don't disagree, but so other than sort of publishing that forward-looking financial information, you know, and I was trying to decide if it was fair to, like, you know, because I know the comparisons that you did when we were talking about some of this were, you know, 20, 40, 60, 80, and I think those scenarios just make things muddy. I'm almost thinking that it's fair to say in, out, and not discuss what might happen if they're out. You know, it's like, here's what happens if they stay, here's what happens if they go, and there's all kinds of in-between area that there could be, but we're not gonna guess at what could happen. And just publish that financial information, let the tax impacts be known, and I mean, we can answer any other questions people might have, but I'm not sure what the other questions are, other than, you know, this is what it does to the enrollment, this is what it does to the taxes, and the financial impact going forward. You have
So I'll just give you one example that's really quite clear. And if the Wyndham students no longer are part of the West River District 712, the students who have been taking advantage of school choice to go to Green Mountain, the money doesn't follow those students. Those are our students. So
Right.
I think there's 2 students at this point in time, and they have traditionally been students regularly, I think, from Wyndham going to Green Mountain. That's an immediate loss of 2 students right there, without moving bodies at all, because when choice is opened up, ADM no longer stays with our school district. So I just think that there's implications that we may not have considered before, and we need to think about that.
anything. I mean, I would think of this sort of as, what are the implications that we want to publish so that, you know, the people who are voting have that knowledge. Trish?
This is a vote that the Wyndham Board warns, correct?
This is a vote that's warned by each individual school district. So Townsend has warned it, Newfane,
We have to do it first. Did you already do it?
Brookline.
Wyndham did it first.
Wyndham did it
already
first.
passed it.
Jamaica's done it. Wyndham's already held the vote and voted to withdraw. And now they have to ask permission from
Right.
the other 4 towns in the Leland and Gray district. And they've all warned the vote for July 16th.
Right, no, I do know that. I just
And then they have to each town has to release them from that
Right.
district without the commingled ballot. So each town has to say.
So the towns are warning.
Yes, yes, the towns have
That was
warned.
my question.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Rick, then we'll go back to Howie.
Yeah, I know it's not your responsibility to answer this, but I put the question forward before. It is the responsibility of the individual school boards and the individual towns. Do you have any idea if they are actually going to hold public meetings? Because based on the rhetoric that was involved in the last vote, the general public is going to assume that this once again is part of Act 46. I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying that's what they're going to think. So the same mindset is going to be coming forth. And unless the school boards actually hold informational meetings so they can correct that misassumption, then people just aren't going to really get it. I mean, because the whole thing last time was, you're forcing us, you're forcing us. Whereas this time it's like, please let us out! You know, so there are 2 different stories there, which somebody has to bring forth, in my opinion anyway, so. But I know you can't speak for the other boards, I just wanted to put that out there.
We have 2 other board chairs sitting here.
I know that.
They may
Formal.
they may speak to that.
So interesting conundrum. I mean, so July 1st, we're no longer the effective body, so does that then?
Well,
Other
technically
than
till
carry-
December
that's the
31 to
beauty.
carry forward,
Till
so.
December 31st. yes.
Right, you could, I think, and no one would question it. Or, what?
Whether Leland and Gray could hold, information meetings too on the impact on Leland and Gray itself.
I think Leland and Gray could.
And I think Leland and
They
Gray
should.
should have a role in this, even if it's not their
You know,
specific.
I think West River could hold an information meeting. I mean, the questions that are going to be asked in the story that gets told, I think, it's the truth no matter which board it comes from. We could certainly do that. You know, I mean, as long as we do what we did, as long as we stay with sort of the factual things, here's what we think the tax impact would be if this happens. Here's what happens with the students. Here's, you know, it's you know, it is a different situation. This isn't an Act 46 thing. This is a withdrawing from a 50-year partnership that's, you know, going forward. But I mean, we could do that. But Howie, I think you were the next one. Hang on, Howie's got a turn, and then you.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't expect you guys to listen to me because you didn't listen to me before when I warned that this whole vote that we warned was going to be a big, painful mess for everybody. I'm pleading with you to just stay out of this one. This is not part of this board. The 2 or 3 students that, ADM students that are going to be lost, if that's going to make the difference between the viability of this school and the unviability of this school, we have bigger problems than Wyndham. This board has a lot of stuff to take care of right now. Whether Wyndham is part of it or not, it shouldn't be an issue. Why waste time and energy on this? Whichever way it goes, it's going to go. The other part of it is that there's a legal conundrum here, which is that the Leland Gray district was dissolved. Wyndham never voted to become part of this merged district. And there's some serious legal issues that are going to have to be resolved if this vote goes against Wyndham. In other words, if the towns vote to keep Wyndham in this district, from there it's going to have to go to court to resolve why. Leland Gray was dissolved. That was the district that Wyndham joined. This district, Wyndham never joined. So, you know, in the interest of keeping things smooth for this board so it can take care of its important business of running its schools, I urge you to just let this go and let the cards fall where they may. If Wyndham gets voted out, we're probably going to be tuitioning all the same kids here that were going here anyway. If Wyndham stays in, there's going to be a lawsuit to sort this out and find out how legal Wyndham's participation in this board is. So, I mean, for the long-term interest of this board, just to know where everything is going to stand as soon as possible, it would be in the interest for Wyndham to just be voted out. That's going to solve a lot of problems. If Wyndham gets voted in, there's going to be...
Wyndham's already in.
Wyndham is in.
Yeah, Wyndham's in. But, Mike.
Sure. So I didn't hear all of what Howie said, but I did catch the end of it. So I'm thinking more about what Joe was saying about what information we put out there. And I'm remembering that we did put out that sheet that Lori made that showed the 80-20 that you talked about, whatever. And so I think it's already out there. And I also think that that's probably more accurate in the sense that we're not going to get 100%, but we're probably not going to get 0 either. So the truth is in the gray area, so in the middle. So I would think that we would want to, since it's already out there, if we do put something out, unless we do what Howie says and we don't get involved, but if we do put something out, I think we should put out something that shows that this is what could happen. That's all.
Lindsay.
I think somebody needs to inform the voters, whether that's us or somebody else. I don't understand how we can have a conversation about not informing the voters what they're supposed to be voting on. So that's just, I don't understand this conversation really.
Yeah.
Well, I have something to say. Along with this, it's not just the money, and it could be 100%, it could be 0%, it could be 35.2%. The reality is, if they are let out of the district, there will be one pre-K through 12 budget. It'll be less confusing come budget time for the taxpayers, which is apparently, that's what some people had said, that budget was, a really hard thing to do because there was 2 different budgets, and, so it would be less of a headache for the administration is one thing. You wouldn't have to, right? You wouldn't have to split two different budgets. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And, there's probably other things there too. You don't have to send mailers out there. You don't have some, there are some savings there too. They're not, phenomenal savings, but they're. No, I'm just saying, if you're gonna turn around and say, this is it at this percent, at 0%, it's not the true number. It's a guesstimate. No matter what number you put out right now, it's a guesstimate. It's not even an estimate, it's a guesstimate. Because 100% could come in. Even if they decide to be a tuition school, they could all come. So you can't say that if they're all out, this is the possible impact, because it could be a zero impact. We don't know. And to turn around and speculate, especially when it comes to ADMs, you never know. 14 kids could move into Wyndham next year. You don't know. That's all. But go ahead.
Well, I agree that you do need to have some sort of support for what the impact is going to be. And I would agree that doing it either at 100% or zero is not a good faith estimate of what you expect. So I know that whether it's 60% or 80% that end up tuitioning in, you have to make some sort of assumptions. State the assumption of what it is, but pick your best option or best guess as to what that's going to be. I would like to say that I think that calculation of which was the 6 cents per the tax rate has to be a little bit more clear in how you lay that out. You need to have your calculations shown so that the voters can follow it through. Just saying 6%, 6 cents, I don't think is adequate. On a related matter, the vote is the 16th, and your next meeting is?
Well, it would be the 15th if we follow our regular schedule.
Okay, so the prior discussion, I don't see how you can make the prior discussion about offering free tuition to sixth graders coming in from other schools before you've found out what the outcome of this vote is. That seems like, because if this outcome of this vote is that Wyndham is going to be leaving, to then have offered free tuition to sixth graders coming into Leland and Gray doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. So,
good point.
I think Emily was next, and then you could speak to that.
So, then I appreciate those comments. You had mentioned about assumptions for whether it's zero, whether it's making assumptions, but I do believe there was a survey taken up in Wyndham, and I don't know what the exact number was, but I do believe that there was 80 or 90% of students, when they were surveyed in Wyndham, said they would not come to Leland and Gray. I don't have the survey in front of me, but I think that we can more than make assumptions.
It was 92, I have a copy.
Quite a number of
information
students, the vast majority of them, it sounded like, did choose not to come to
it was when you were.
Leland and Gray.
It was in the documents that you submitted to the AOE for your alternative governance proposal. 92% of the parents that answered the survey said they would not send their children to Leland and Gray if they had the tuition option.
Well,
It's in the documents that Wyndham submitted to the AOE. So, I mean, that's why I think it's all guesswork. But anyway,
How many were
then you wanted to
surveyed
speak to that. Then we'll go out there. Okay. Yep.
I just want to address that tuition thing. The reason for the tuition waiver is that the town of Wyndham didn't have time to put tuition for sixth grade into our budget. So the conundrum is that we signed up for Leland and Gray as a 7 through 12 school, as it's been for the past 4 years. This was a pretty sudden decision to add the sixth grade, first year out of the box in the merged district, to Leland and Gray. Parents in Wyndham are concerned, who are planning on sending their kids to Leland and Gray, we're concerned that their kids will be starting a year later. That's the reason for the tuition waiver for 1 year. It would only be for the kids coming in this fall who want to start their high school career with the kids from the other towns. And as far as, you know, whether Wyndham stays in the district or not, all I could say is those kids who come in on that tuition waiver will, Wyndham are most likely going to continue as tuition students at Leland and Gray, even if Wyndham leaves the district. So there's not, it's not like, if Wyndham leaves, well, screw you, you know, we're not tuitioning, you know, we don't want your kids at all. I mean, I'm sure that Leland and Gray still wants Wyndham kids as tuition kids. The only difference is that we would have choice in our town. You know, the kids in the north end of the town who have traditionally wanted to go to Green Mountain, as was pointed out, these kids fall through a hole in 6th grade and 7th grade because choice doesn't start until high school. Okay, so it's created a real problem for these kids whose families traditionally sent them to Green Mountain, who wanted to send their kids to Green Mountain 7 through 12, that they can't. They got to send their kids here 7 and 8, and then to Green Mountain 9 through 12. Does that make sense?
I understand your
Yeah.
thoughts on it, I disagree, but that's okay.
So that's.
Okay, Kathy, I think you were next, and then Krista.
I would like somebody just to kind of clear the air about tuition and the fact that tuition is not the actual cost of educating the student, that it is in fact an arbitrary number that is more or less set by the state, that does not include things like special education, building costs, and certain other things. So when we talk about net zero, there is no net zero, because if those kids were to come back as tuition kids, you're not going to receive the same revenue stream that you have as part of the district.
True. Crystal, I think you were next.
My question is more for Bill, and it may be a slightly off topic, but you know, since the merger vote didn't happen, and now we're going into the, are we gonna let him out of Leland and Gray? A lot of our parents are like, oh crap, next year when Wyndham more than likely closes, our town has no bus. Because of decisions that were made by people who aren't parents. Everybody talks about legal ramifications, and if you don't want your kid to go to school there, move. Well, it's not as simple as moving, and now we have this huge issue where all these parents are like, oh my God, how are my kids getting into school? Because if Wyndham School closes, no bus. We're not part of West River, no bus. So, you know, there's also a huge issue where Wyndham, more than likely after next year, we're gonna have no transportation for their kids. I mean, it's not an issue for me, I transport mine, but a lot of the other people are like, what are we gonna do?
So you brought up a lot of different things there. So as it currently stands, the Wyndham School District transports 7 through 12 students to Leland and Gray. And if on July 16th, the vote is approved by each individual town to allow Wyndham to exit 7 through 12 Leland and Gray West River, Wyndham still has the option to provide transportation to any place they would like to. An example I would use is Stratton is a member of the Wyndham Central Supervision, and they don't operate a school at all, and they provide transportation to multiple schools. So that decision is still within the purview of the Wyndham School District, even though they operate a K through 6, and if under this scenario had tuition 7 through 12, those transportation options can still be offered. But you're correct in that we wouldn't know until it actually happened. So I couldn't give you a definitive answer on that. Sorry.
You'd have to go to the Wyndham School Board and see what their intentions would be.
Exactly.
Yep. You?
Yeah.
Yo, please.
I'd like to make a motion that this board warn an informational meeting on this vote, and further instruct the chair to write a letter to be submitted the week before the vote to the papers, clarifying what this vote means to the taxpayers.
Can I have the officers help me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Could possibly. You can't say will impact, because it's
Well, yes,
not
you
written
can,
in stone. May.
We do have different scenarios.
Well, it will, well, we don't know. It's on the draw. You don't know. I personally doubt it, but it could come out level, or it could come out in the district's favor. We don't know. So to say what will happen is you're showing intent that it's going to happen, where if you say it may impact, and then I'm all for it.
Well,
I'll second
there
that
will be
motion
an
if it has been
impact.
seconded.
There will
Okay,
be an
so
impact.
it's been moved and seconded to warn an information meeting and to direct the chair to write a letter a week ahead of the vote explaining the impact of the possible vote results and what the actual vote involves. Like, what, this is what's actually happening here, right?
Yep.
Okay. So that's been moved and seconded. We can now further discuss, which would include picking a day to have the information meeting.
How long does it take to come out on television? What's the turnaround on the TV?
3 days. Two,
They're
3 days.
really efficient. I mean,
2 or 3
3
days?
days, they're pretty awesome. So,
At least 3 days before the vote.
so you're looking at like July.
So we could have
15th.
we could have the meeting, we could have an information meeting on
Same night as the meeting the night before.
Could,
July 9th or 10th, maybe, Tuesday or Wednesday.
is it possible to do, I know we had just talked about our July meeting, if we keep our regular schedule of the 15th, is it possible to change our regular meeting also to the same day as the informational meeting and do information first and regular meeting after or something like that, so that we're not doing another 2 days,
Brilliant.
please?
Do a 6
Right.
o'clock
Sure.
info and then do regular meeting at 7, something like that.
On like the 8th or
On the
whatever.
8th, yeah.
Right.
I'm not around that day. I prefer not that date.
How about the?
Which day?
How about
I get back
What
on
do
the
you
12th.
like, Drew?
you get back on the 12th?
What do you like?
You're never around.
I'm like in the ocean, man.
Yeah. So you're back for the 15th meeting, but you
I
would
am.
miss the information meeting.
Correct.
And if we moved the meeting, you would miss it all.
Correct. I prefer we didn't do that.
You prefer what?
I prefer we didn't do that.
Well,
He doesn't want to move the meeting day.
he wants to make an extra information meeting because he's gone that whole week before.
Boo.
That's all right. Do it that way.
So Drew's bad that whole week of the 8th. How's everybody else? I mean, I don't have anything that I can't move at this point for that week.
I'm available then.
Or
You're
even
available that
earlier?
week?
Do it even earlier? That's right.
I mean, you don't want to do it on the
Trish,
before.
Lindsay,
The
Emily.
week of the 8th is so great. Yeah, I can do that week.
Okay,
Drew can
anytime
call
that
in
week.
though. Great.
You
We
got
could
this.
set up the call
You got
in for
this.
people that are going to be gone.
I'll be on some
Ken,
weeks
you're
anyway.
around. Al.
I'm sorry, what?
Anytime, anything the week of the
I don't
8th,
think I can.
better or worse.
8, 9, or 10.
8, 9, or 10.
That's exactly what I should do.
Okay, so Al's 8, 9, or 10. No 11 or 12.
Agreed.
8, 9, or 10. Preferences?
I don't think so.
No, you're gone the whole time.
Oh,
don't
I
you?
can't do 8.
Okay, so now we're to 9 or 10. Emily, anything? Either one?
No, 9.
You?
I work for you guys, so
Okay.
as long as I'm in the country,
All right, how about July 9th information meeting? Sound good to everybody?
Are we gonna double?
What day of the week is that?
No,
That is a
Tuesday.
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 Because he wants me here for our regular meeting.
We probably won't end up doubling. Sorry.
I tried.
You could call in on the 15th
I might. From my couch.
from your couch. Okay.
So what time do you want?
So 7 o'clock information meeting?
7 o'clock on the 9th?
And where?
Here.
Here? Okay. All right.
Seven? Did we say?
7 p.m., July 9th, information meeting right here. Yes, ma'am.
I could just say, the last information meeting that was here in the library with that many people is really hard to see.
We could move it to,
I think
What-
you should
what's
have
air
it in the
conditioning?
gym if you're gonna have an information meeting.
I don't think either gym is air conditioned, but that may serve to shorten the meeting.
Dutton
isn't bad. When you'll
No,
be
Dutton
with us.
isn't too bad, but you make a really good point. Thank you.
So is this a West River meeting that we're warning?
Yes.
I think we should encourage Leland and Gray to come too.
Yeah.
We can try, warn it as a Leland and Gray joint.
And if
West River.
any other of the elementary schools want to participate, they should too.
Sure. I could send an email out to the other elementary board chairs and just say, hey, we're doing this.
No, I got one more.
Yeah, I know.
July 9th, 7 p.m.
Yep. Yes, Lori, sorry.
I am available that night, by the way. And some other clarifying questions on what you want to present in your letter. So, just, for this gentleman's also information that the analysis that I did for you that had the 20, 40, 60 that talked about that 6 cents is all on the website. Okay, so people do have access to it and they can see the work that came up with those numbers.
Right, we
So-
can.
But we can physically also
We can bring that forward.
Sure, we can
in
bring
hard
it, I just
copy,
want
right.
some clarification because it's, 4 pages long, so I'm sure that's not what you really want to present. So if you would give me some guidance about what you would like to present.
Okay.
The board would like to present.
Okay. Anybody?
I have an idea.
Yes, please.
The 3-year comparison is always a nice document. So using the 3-year comparison and then just laying out the different scenarios, possibilities.
Can we do last year,
Effects
this
of
year,
all.
next year?
No, I'm sorry, just using the 3-year comparison document, just so you can see the flow, the proper flow.
But what years in the comparison are you thinking?
Right,
Why comparison
because
helps.
there's no 3-year comparison for West River.
No, right, no, and I'm not saying a 3-year comparison, I'm just saying
Using that format.
layout.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what data then gets plugged into that format?
Right, so where we would believe we're gonna be right now,
Mhm.
based on current information, how we stand, versus possibilities.
Okay.
Lay out a couple possibilities.
So is there maybe a percentage that you want to use, or maybe it is the 0% of students tuitioning in?
See, I'm not opposed to the 0% and 100%, because then you can define, or figure out for yourself, all right, it's gonna be
Well, do we
somewhere
want
in
to
between.
do we want to put maybe in 50%
50,
too?
and
So we've
100.
got,
Sure.
here's none, here's half, here's all.
Sure.
And the truth is, we don't know
It'll
where
be
in that
gradient somewhere
spectrum,
in between.
but it'll be somewhere in here.
Okay, and so that was this document that I did before for you. And I
Excuse me.
did 5 years out. So basically just this document maybe laid out a little different? I'm sorry,
I don't
but,
see how you can go 5 years out, it's too far.
We know birth rates
yeah.
and how many kids are
I
enrolled.
had to make some assumptions, you're right.
Yeah, I don't think you need to go 5 years out necessarily.
I have to make
Well,
assumptions
you
with
could.
3 years,
Well,
so
if we
how
just,
many
if
pre-K
you just
students
look
are
at the
coming in.
numbers in
and-
the article of agreement of what enrollment was gonna look like over the next couple of years, they're up.
We know how many students are in the school
Right.
now.
Oh, yeah, it's all.
Okay, so 3 years.
So, it's all relative.
And what was it, 20, or
0, 50, and 100.
Can we get a copy of the proposal that Wyndham submitted to the state board with their studies in it? Would that be helpful to,
Yeah,
that survey was in it.
I can find it.
I'm assuming it must be public information.
I have bits and pieces of it.
No, Carolyn gave me a copy. I've found it.
Okay.
Well, the AOE has it, I'm sure.
Actually, they don't.
Well,
The AOE doesn't have
The
it?
state board has to have it.
If you
too.
go to them to get it, they send you to Wyndham. Because it wasn't submitted electronically, it's paper copy only, and they don't have it.
I can.
You have
The
the
Wyndham board
technology.
has been very
Oh, yeah, no.
helpful
Well,
in
the document's
providing
out.
it to me.
The
so I can
document's
get it
out
to
there.
them.
It's not.
Well, my question is on that, if you're gonna use that survey, you also need to know the percentage of people compared to the percentage of the.
I would just get the survey. I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, I'm not
Well,
gonna, I don't think
but
we're
I'm
using
saying
the survey.
You
We're
can
just-
use
I'm
the
not
survey,
analyzing
and
it. I'm
you
not
can
giving
use
an
the survey,
opinion
and
on it.
only 50%
He
of
didn't
people
ask
took
to
it.
use it, he
Your
wants to see
90%
it.
wanted to read
is
it.
now down to 43.
We're not asking to use the survey. The request was
Oh,
just
read
to
it.
read it.
Oh.
Not changing the data.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna use data from it, you have to use all the data.
And
Don't
we're saying
pick
we're
and
not
choose.
using the data from it.
Okay, that's what I'm just saying. Well, if you're asking for it, you know.
The idea is not to withhold information, it's to share as much information as possible, right?
Right.
Yeah, but they-
That's what you're thinking.
If you have incomplete information,
That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
That's not, I'm not trying to have incomplete information. I want to make sure all information is out there
Correct.
if possible, so.
Right. Okay, so we've got it figured out. You've got an idea, and we can work together. We'll get this out, in the next, we've got a couple of weeks. Wow, it's a long time. Yeah, it's like forever. Again, if you think of something else that maybe should go, let me know, and we'll work on it. Anything else on the Wyndham vote? Ladies and gentlemen. Okay. We need to, the WCSU board. What?
There was a motion second, we didn't vote on it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. So there was the motion and second to warn the meeting. I guess we got to vote on that, and also to direct me to write the letter. There was a lot of discussion, and I'm sorry, I forgot. So, any more discussion on that motion? Thanks, Drew. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. So we will be warning that meeting for July 9th. And I will be putting a letter together with the officers explaining, and we'll publish some information and see what happens.
9th at 7 o'clock. Okay.
9th at 7 o'clock. So WCSU is reorganizing. Help me.
The WCSU is reorganizing the voting
What's the
structure
date?
of the
July.
WCSU board from 28 members to 14, which has been voted on twice and approved by the State Board of Education. And the board is meeting on the 24th
Of June?
of July,
July.
in which they will reorganize. This board, along with all the other boards, is responsible for deciding on the 6 members that will be a part of that 14-member board. So West River has 6 members on that 14-member board. So this board needs to send their regular representatives. Well, this is the first time you guys get
Right,
to go.
this is the
is
first time,
exciting.
right. So
Some of us
since
are
that
on now.
board gets reconfigured, then this board, the West River board, needs to have 6 voting members. What happens traditionally on the town boards is it's the chair, and then there are other people that are elected.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be, but
anybody.
it's often the chair, because that makes the executive committee.
Right, but there's some towns who.
But sometimes
chair
the chair doesn't want to do it or whatever, but that's sort of traditional. But anyway, we have, I know I'm on it for Leland and Gray, you're on it for Leland and Gray, you're on it for Newfane, you're on it for Townsend. There are a bunch of people who've done
There's
it.
4.
I was going to suggest, since we
Leanne's on
get
it for
6, Leon's on for Brookline. I don't. On Leland and Gray, it's been, all right, who wants it?
Every other month.
It meets 4 times a year plus 1. Wednesdays.
Usually the 4th Wednesday.
Usually the 4th Wednesday. So I was going to suggest, just to make it easier, it could be the officers plus 3, assuming the officers are all willing to take on that role.
I'm happy to stay on if.
Well, I'm gonna put a stipulation in this, that we have at least one member, and this is where it's gonna get tricky because there's votes coming up.
24.
Okay? One member from each town should be a representative, at least. You should, if they're willing to do it. In other words, we have one representative from. You can shake your head no.
But you can't force, there's one member from Wyndham
I
and
say,
one member from
if
Brookline.
they're
You say if they're willing to do it.
if they're willing to
So if
serve.
they say, if they're willing to serve, all they gotta do is say, I'd like to be on, and I don't think they're gonna not be on.
No, but I'm saying if we wind up with 3 people from towns and never mind. There should be, to do it fairly, every town in the district should be represented at the
They are.
WCSU level.
They are.
No,
There's-
physically on as a
They
voting
are.
member.
They are.
No, they won't be. If we
Every
have
com-
six
Not from
reps.
here, but that doesn't mean if they're not on here, they still get representation from their community, right? So, Bill, explain what the breakdown is in each community.
So Stratton has 1 vote. Marlboro and Wyndham have 2 votes. River Valleys has 3 votes, and West River has 6 votes.
So every town is represented on that board.
So you guys have to decide 6.
Yes.
A representative from each town in the new district is what I'm saying.
What you're really saying
I'm
is
saying
that
at
someone
least
from
one member should
Townsend
be
cannot
from Townsend.
accurately represent
Huh?
the interest. What you're saying is someone from another town other than Newfane can't actually represent Newfane fairly?
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it should be that way because if something comes up at the WCSU level, they have a local representative that they can get in touch with in their town if they need to.
What, explain right of first
So like
refusal.
if there's only one person, one representative on this board from the town of Brookline. So if Leanne
Doesn't want to do it.
doesn't want to do it,
She
she
doesn't
doesn't
have
have to, but give her the choice first.
Right,
I
that's
think
what I'm
that's,
saying.
so, would
Well,
you
that's-
like
is
it,
that so
well,
hard?
just as we're talking about it, not in like a formal way, but in like a, hey, Leanne, you interested?
She's
That's
still
it.
on?
I don't know. Are you
She's
guys
not-
still
If
there?
she was, she's not now.
She's over it, yeah.
She's hung up.
Well, she told me she was interested in it.
July 24th.
24.
Like, great.
She's on it now.
I don't think we need to be like,
That's,
um,
I'm
don't-
happy to put my name
Formal
in.
and
Again,
legitimate.
I don't mind serving on the board. I don't mind one way or the other, but I'm happy to
Okay,
continue
well,
on.
I
So,
mean, it doesn't
please
have to be the
volunteer,
officers.
folks.
I'll volunteer.
I'll do it.
Al,
do
Drew?
it.
sure.
I hear,
so there's
a not
1,
large
2,
member.
3, 4, 5, 6. You've got them.
Well, I don't think, I don't know. We didn't offer it to Leanne.
I told
Oh,
her,
that's-
Leanne already said she's willing.
So that's 6.
Well, then, 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then Leanne. It's 6.
Okay.
But Mike said, I thought, he said he would do it.
Mike
Well,
also
yeah,
wants
but
to do.
Leanne put her name.
Well, there's 2 from Newfane.
That's true. There's 2 from Newfane.
Oh my goodness, see that?
So do we have
There you
6?
go.
There's 2 from Townsend too.
There's 5 right here in front of you.
There's 3
Right.
down.
Oh, there you go.
And both
Mike
people on
and
the
Leanne.
phone, so we have 7 that have volunteered.
2 towns are gonna have to have 2 people if we do it that way.
So does anybody not want to do it?
You can't step up because you're the only one from Wyndham. I mean, Jamaica.
Not saying you can't go to the meetings, it's just saying that it's a voting member.
So there are 7, basically there are 7 volunteers and we need 6. So I guess we have to have an election unless somebody wants to come out of it.
Well, I wanna see how you're gonna pull ballots off with 2 people on the phone.
Email.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you guys email?
Yeah, I'm gonna make this easy.
I
I'll step
can.
aside.
You guys are meeting on July
What?
9th.
I'll make this easy, I'll step
Let's just
aside.
do it July.
Okay. All right, so now we don't need ballots. Is Leanne even on the
Less
phone?
meetings, the better part of ballot.
No, I don't think she is.
Okay.
Although I am the clerk of that board, so
I
that
know.
might,
It's problematic.
Yeah, that's a problem. And I know Rich wants to keep going forward.
Sorry, I withdraw.
I'm
Yeah.
like, no,
You can
no,
wait
you know
for
what?
Jamaica.
I'm out.
Whatever, that's fine. I don't need to go to another meeting.
I'm out.
You're good. I got plenty of meetings. Now you're
We
good.
need Jamaica.
No problem. I'll step away. Now we got 3 from Townsend. We're good.
I'm happy to let you
Nope.
have the seat because another
Nope, we're
meeting
good.
I don't need.
You got this.
All right, we've got 6.
So who are the 6?
Me, Ken, Al, Emily, Mike, and Leanne.
Okay. Mike, can you hear me?
Yes.
24th, July 24th, 7 o'clock.
There was already an email sent
You'll
out to
get
all of us.
multiple email reminders, but I'm just telling you.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
All right, all in favor of those people as the voting members, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Aaron, did you get those 6? Okay, awesome.
Lori, you want to do tax anticipation note and
Sure.
the warrants thing? You're just looking for, if for some reason this board didn't meet, that the officers could sign the pay orders like we have set up with Leland and Gray, right?
I have a question. Should we have an alternate in case somebody can't make the meeting?
It doesn't take a meeting normally.
You have to have alternates elected before the meeting for that meeting specifically. You can't just have like,
Those 6 have to go.
those 6 have to go.
To
And then if I'm not gonna
Yeah,
go,
alt- Are we talking about Wyndham
Then-
Central?
I believe so.
You can't do alternates.
You can't do
There are
alternates.
no alternates. You have to.
You have to appoint somebody
reappoint
special
someone.
if you know you're gonna miss.
But
to have
those
alternates.
6 need to come to reorganization.
You can't have an alternate just waiting in the wings unless you say you can't make the first meeting and then
You
we
have
can
to
put somebody
resign.
in your spot. But basically, you
Right.
have to resign and be reappointed if you're not gonna make a meeting and you
the
wanna
only
get a
way to do
voting
it.
rep there. That's how it's been done for years. That's how their bylaws work.
I think it's statute.
7 p.m. 24th.
Oh, statute?
I think so.
I thought it was their bylaws.
And you all have a doodle poll out. So
already
the 6
answered.
of you better answer yes.
I've already answered.
Okay.
I've
That
already
came out a
answered.
long time ago.
I'm in.
Just checking. Just.
So talk to us about tax anticipation.
Well, can we finish the conversation about having the,
I will make a motion to have the chair, the officers of this board be the authorized signers. You're welcome.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to have the officers of this board act as authorized signers for bills and pay orders in case the board is not meeting for some reason, no quorum, bad snowstorm, whatever, so that we can continue to do business. Any discussion on that? We've been doing that for Leland and Gray for a couple years now, at least a year now, and it works. Discussion?
You
Questions?
have no choice, it has to work.
We got it. Okay, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. There you go, Lori.
okay, thank you. All right, tax anticipation note. So, we went out for, $1.8 million to start the year. It's a line of credit at, 2.65%. So you only pay interest on what you use, throughout the year. So this is to carry us until we get all of the tax payments from the pounds. In doing so, I need a motion to accept the $1.8 million or tax anticipation note.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to accept the $1.8 million tax anticipation note. Any discussion on that?
What's the bank?
Peoples?
Same as all the other boards, just a bigger note because it's a bigger district, right?
Yeah, so Leland and Gray typically had almost $1 million on their own, so Newbrook had roughly 500,000, so it makes up, most to the 1.8.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. All right. Any more questions, discussion? All in favor of the motion to accept the tax anticipation note, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it.
And now I need signatures from the majority of the board, or all the board that's here, and then from the treasurer and the clerk.
Okay.
So I've marked it up. No.
Okay.
There's more than one place, everybody.
Right. Blue are board members, red is clerk, orange is treasurer. Okay, there you go.
Okay. So the next item is a possible summer retreat. We've done them, individual boards have done them. I know, speaking from my own experience on Leland and Gray, we've done them pretty much every summer, and we generally get a lot out of them. I know we did something last summer where we took a whole day and met and planned. And I think it would be a good idea to try and fit one of those in this summer where we, spend a day and, sort of look at where we're going over the next year, 2, year, 3, 5 years. We need to start looking out a little bit and start, getting the vision in place for the district. We could do August. We could even probably push it into like early September if it made sense to people. Is the best way to figure a date to just send out a doodle poll with some dates to everybody and have people say I'm available, I'm not, and pick the best date for the whole board?
Meg just loves sending out doodle polls.
Or we can just try it right now.
Or we can what? I mean, we could pick a day right now. We don't have Leanne, we don't have Christina, we don't have a couple people, but I mean, we could try and doodle poll it up. Just whatever makes the most sense, and then we'll come up with an agenda. The easiest thing is to throw that at the officers, but I just wanted to make sure everybody was supportive of it.
Do that.
Okay, a doodle poll then. Does anybody have times when they know they're at we're taking the 3rd week of August and we're leaving the country, and so I can stay away from those?
I prefer not the first week of August because I have a show.
Not the first week of August?
Well,
okay.
No, I shouldn't say that.
Was it you, Howie? Somebody said yeah.
I'm free in August, the 12th through the 29th.
Okay, what about early September?
Early September.
Do I sign the blues too?
Free
or just
starting
the
at
reds?
9.
Okay. All right.
I like early September.
Okay. Well, I'll get a poll out in the next couple days and we'll figure something out. Okay, that finishes new business. We don't have any old business. Right. Good. I'm blue, right?
You're blue.
You're so blue.
Yeah, sing to me.
Okay.
We have a number of minutes on the consent agenda because we went through and
You guys have approved all
we've
these?
approved
We
them all. We
not-
just
did
haven't
not put them
documented it as well as we'd like.
documented under the consent agenda when we published the minutes.
Right, as you said, approved consent agenda.
Exactly.
And we didn't say what was in the consent agenda. So just to make it really clear and formalize the actual approval of all those minutes, we put, all those minutes in the consent agenda. I have copies of them all right here if anybody'd like
They
to
were all
take a
sent
look
to
at
us,
them.
too.
And they were all sent to you too, but I have hard copies here. But as long as nobody has any issues with that, and I wanted to explain why there were so many minutes in the consent agenda, it's just sort of housekeeping.
Oh, that's-
We
So,
just,
can I make a motion
you sure can.
to accept or to
Approve the consent
approve
agenda?
the consent agenda as documented on tonight's agenda? This way we don't have to write down all the numbers in the
Thank you.
motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, there's no discussion on that. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay. Anything else we got to talk about before we have an executive session?
There will not be any action.
There will not be any action after the executive session. So I just need a motion to go into executive session to discuss a legal matter.
Move to go into executive
Until I
session.
sign the paper.
That's true, but she'll need to take her stuff down and.
And Lori, you're gonna get the final signature from Rick, and then you're good to go.
Okay, so we've got a motion to go into executive session for
We can
legal
go in
matter. We
that
just need a
classroom.
second.
If you guys want to just pop up.
Second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we're in. If we go in the classroom, we lose Mike.